Alright, so unless you've been living under a rock, you've probably heard about this whole Castorice situation. She's gonna be bringing animation power creep into the game, she's gonna have one of the most fun and interesting kits so far, and that's all fine and dandy, but she's also bringing some other things into the game that players are not all happy about. Some people love it, some people hate it, that's why it's a little bit of a controversial issue. And we can get into some of those finer details in just a moment here, but I'm basically making this video today to say, guys, this is happening, okay? This is going to make it to live. Alright, there are still some naysayers out there, some believers out there that think at the last minute Hoyoverse will just change the whole thing up and they'll remove the passive and they'll just remove all this other stuff and it's gonna be sunshine and rainbows. But bro, they have not just doubled down, they have tripled, quadrupled down. I ran out of words to say how many times they've doubled down on, okay? We also just recently got the patch 3.2 live stream announcement. You can come to their YouTube channel and click the notify me button right here if you wanted to be there for when it's like for sure, like this is the final straw kind of a thing. And they did make it the header of their YouTube channel, so this is a big deal to them, okay? What is that? Through the petals and the lands of repose. And so there's apparently a final version of the beta for 3.2 that's going to end up changing up probably by the time some of you see this video. I'm doing this before that ends up happening because I'm incredibly confident that this is simply going to happen. They've integrated too many things into the game to go back on this at this point in a reasonable manner for themselves. Plus, a lot of players are upset, sure, but there's a lot of spenders and a lot of die-hard fans, whether they're free to play or not, that are totally fine with this and are even excited about some of these changes that are going to be coming to the game. Hoyoverse, Honkai Star Rail, whatever you want to call it, simply have not received enough backlash for them to go back on this whole entire game plan. They're at the very least going to try this out. There is a very, very slim chance that this character comes out and then a massive wave of public outcry goes out and Hoyoverse decides to not put out the other character passes that they had planned. But let's be real, let's be honest with ourselves here. That's not going to happen. And if I somehow end up being wrong about this, then I'll eat my words. You can come to this video, you come back here, leave a comment, bro. Let me know L Pancake he was wrong, okay? But I haven't been wrong about anything like this so far, and it's been like, what, 2 years now? But as many of you will know, this is just a crappy intro, so let's get into this. But first, if you like this kind of stuff, consider leaving a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help out, and we're on that push towards 10K, which will be the first milestone for the channel. Now, firstly, for those that have no idea what the heck I'm talking about, Castorice will be releasing with a global passive ability. This affects the entire account, whether she's on your team or not. When you are in combat, including endgame content like Memory of Chaos, if one of your characters dies, if they go down, she quite literally will revive them. She doesn't have to be there. She could be sitting on the bench. She could be back home on the Astral Express while you are in Memory of Chaos, and she will revive one of your downed characters. There's even going to be an integrated icon on combat now. This is going to be a combat integration. If you have this character, this icon will be there and it will basically like pop on or pop off, like turn on or turn off, whether it's active or not, indicating whether this has been used in combat. That way you know and are aware that it is there. This is, again, more and more integrations. They have doubled down on this more rather than remove it, for example. There's also a little bit more nuance to why she's kind of a problematic character that isn't so obvious. I'll get into that a little bit later. I kind of just wanted to discuss the passive for a sec here because a lot of people keep saying, dude, a revive isn't even that strong. Like, if your characters are dying in combat, like, that's a big L, bro. Build a better account. And while I do agree that a passive revive is not a big deal at all, like, it really is not. That's genuinely only going to matter to casuals. However, casuals are the majority of the player base, so it is a sort of FOMO ability or a feeling of missing out ability if you don't have it on your account. Your account technically is inferior to everyone else's accounts if you don't have this ability, and the only way to get this ability is by pulling the character. You might not even like Castorice, but feel inclined to pull this character just to get this ability, right? And dude, I don't know if you guys noticed, like I didn't really notice, but other people were telling me who are a bit more casual that this new boss coming out, this new boss we played in 3.1, right? This dude can straight up wipe your entire team down to like 1%. And then there's a chance that if you get hit again after that, that one of your characters goes down. Obviously, being taken down to 1 isn't that big of a deal. A lot of strong healers exist. You could just heal them up, or you could have shields on a character like Aventurine and just never have to worry about something like that. But I think you get where I'm going with this. This is technically an ability that makes you feel inclined to pull. This is a predatory practice style ability. Sure, you don't have to have it in order to clear. You genuinely do not need this in order to clear content. But it's the start of things to come, because there are other characters that they are planning to do this type of stuff with. And although a global passive revive is not that big of a deal, a global crit rate buff or a global attack buff or a global speed buff that is always there regardless of whether the character is on your team or not, that is actually straight up a pay-to-win type of strategy. Of course, you could save up like crazy and only pull these characters that have the passive ability, but people that are in denial that this is a pay-to-win strategy, that this is a predatory practice style strategy, you gotta get your head fixed, because this is simply that. This company wants to make money. That is what they do. And yes, I have to keep repeating this because people just, like, I don't know, don't pay attention or something. Free to play can still obviously acquire these characters, but it kind of feels forced, right? What if there's a different character that you want to pull and you're low on Jade or something like that, and you feel like you have to skip them in order to pull one of these other characters or something like that? Or you feel more inclined and potentially you spend for the first time ever in the game. This is how they get you, bro. And here's the thing. I'm not even hating on players that want this type of stuff to come into the game or think this type of stuff is cool, because on the first glance, yeah, this stuff seems kind of cool, but when you think about the bigger picture, when you think about what's to come later on down the line, this is just the start of worse things to come. They've done stuff like this in other games, not necessarily Hoyo, but this has occurred in other games before, and this never really goes well. And something I've heard a lot in the comments of previous videos where I've talked about that I 1,000,000% agree with is that the problem isn't the global passives themselves. That's totally fine. Having a global passive, that's not an issue, right? The problem is that it's attached to a character. You can only get this ability by pulling the character. And not everybody wants to have to pull a character to get the ability. If you had this attached to some main story quest or a side quest or some sort of like endgame mode, like with a tower, or like some sort of thing where you get to the final stage, and after you beat the final stage, you get this global passive and it's attached to your account all the time, not to a character, that's totally fine. And that's actually cool. That's actually sick. That makes you feel like that's a fun game mode to try out and do, and then go get that global passive. But putting it on a character, that's the problem. That's the part that makes it a predatory practice style thing. That's the issue. And some people are gonna say, oh, shut up, crybaby, you little girls whining about everything all the time. Oh my god, drama channel, doom poster. Bro, you'll realize the reason we're making these type of videos and why we're talking about this thing, why it's become such a big thing, is because we actually care about the game. If we didn't care about the game, we just friggin' quit and then walk away and never say anything to anybody. But because doom posting and doom poster have become such a catchphrase on the internet these days that they're just parroting around everywhere they see. A genuine concern, like a legitimate concern for the game, a critique that is actually genuine comes through, and they're like, what a doom poster, bro. Like, bro, shut up. If having genuine concern and just wanting a game to be good is qualification for a doom poster, then hi, let me introduce myself. Hi, my name is Pancake, the king of the fucking doom posters. Now, I wanted to address players quitting the game, because I've been hearing players in my comments and like in Discord and like on the internet, a lot of people have been saying they're quitting the game, but a lot of people, like genuinely, thousands of people have actually already quit the game. They quit the game before they even found out about this stuff in some cases, right? But I did a video on this recently, and so far, the numbers that we know about are like in maybe the tens of thousands, but that's not enough to make even a dent in the overall player base of the game. Some people, to be fair, are acting like this game's gonna die, like this game's gonna end a service like tomorrow. This doesn't happen overnight. Even if players start to leave the game in mass, it's not gonna happen right away. This is a long-term process. People are slowly going to realize the issues with these games and over time leave the game. It's not going to be a mass exodus like 3.2 drops and everybody just leaves in one day. That's not going to happen, especially because a lot of people have an express pass, or people are waiting for like the Fate collab to come out. There's people that are like, I hate I've heard comments of people saying they literally hate the game. They constantly comment and say they despise the game. But I'm gonna wait for the fake collab because you know what? I want to pull Saber and then quit the game. Like, bro, reality check? But on that note, I do feel like the way Honkai Star Rail is going, the things they're implementing into the game, and the way that like 2.6, 2.7, 3.0 went, 3.1 was a slight improvement, but we're talking, that's a low bar, buddy. That's a low bar to be able to reach. All you gotta do is take one step forward and you've immediately surpassed the last like 3 to 4, maybe even 6 months of the game's like overall quality. But that's my point, is that the depreciation of the game's overall quality has been there for a little while. And I do hope it gets better, but they don't really have an incentive to do so because a lot of people are still here, myself included, trying to give the game a chance to see if it will get better, and it hasn't. So if things continue like this, you will start to see people leave the game. But Honkai Star Rail isn't going anywhere. It's gonna be a lot like Genshin, where a lot of people don't really necessarily like Genshin anymore and very, very slowly started to trickle out of the game. But as some people trickle out, newer and newer generations of people trickle in, and so the game just like literally doesn't ever die. But the quality of the game could go down, and that's what we've been seeing lately, and that's part of the concern with integrations like this that long term have not worked out in any other game that have included this type of stuff before. And bro, financially, Honkai Star Rail will do just fine. The anniversary is the biggest month, the biggest patch of the entire year. I guarantee this is likely going to be the highest revenue month since literally the last anniversary. Okay, you're not gonna notice this game hurting whatsoever when this goes live because people are really excited about this, bro. There's people out there playing the E6 S5. Some people are probably gonna pull like 20 light cones even though it doesn't even work just because they want to, like, I don't know, stick it to the poor people that left the game for some reason. I don't know what the logic is on that one, but you know, people do that. I also want to point out that Castorice is an HP scaling character, and we just got Mighty and Tribi as HP scaling characters. You're noticing a trend here, I have a feeling. This, you know, starts to remind you of the Fart team, aka the follow-up attack team with Fei Xiao. Who was it? Aventurine, you had Robin, and then you had Topaz, right? That's like the dream team for follow-up right now. And acquiring all of these characters to be like the peak of the follow-up attack meta, that's kind of a high investment, right? And don't be surprised when Castorice does this exact same thing, brother. There's already going to be a team like that when she basically comes out with Tribi and Mighty, and of course you're going to have another slot missing, which will be that like sustainability character, but nudge, nudge, wink, wink. We should be getting another character like that. In fact, I'm recording this before we get the drip marketing. I'm going to probably end up leaving this in and just show the character on screen because I have a feeling they're going to be announced literally today before I finish editing this video. So you'll have already a version of a Castorice team which requires all premium characters. Is it necessarily going to be the absolute best, most meta version? Possibly not, but it's going to be one of them. And don't be surprised, again, when more characters come out that synergize with a premium pay-to-win style team for Castorice in the future, just like we saw with the follow-up Dream Team. They didn't all release the same patch. It took several patches for it to finally release, and players didn't know beforehand that that's what they were getting into with the follow-up meta. The Castorice situation will be a lot of the same. Now, I'm pointing all this stuff out just so that you guys are aware of it, and I guess if I can try to wrap this up in like a nice, neat little bow, the Castorice situation is not a good thing for the game overall, and the future characters coming out are not a good thing for the game overall. Is the game going to die overnight as a result of it? No. In fact, it's going to thrive for a little while before you start to see players see the writing on the wall and slowly start to leave the game. But as that happens, more people will come to the game as well. It's going to be just like Genshin. The Honkai Star Rail can't go anywhere unless it somehow decides to end of service itself. And let's be honest, that's not going to happen. Even if millions of players leave this game, it's not going anywhere. Look at Honkai Impact 3rd. That game's been out for like, I think in September or October or something like that. It's going to be 9 years that game has been out. Bro, that game could be on life support and it'll still keep going. And the same thing is going to happen with Genshin. The same thing is going to happen with Honkai Star Rail. The game's not going anywhere. But the quality of the game is likely going to go down. And we already know that it has been as of late. I hope, just like many others, that it will get better, but there's no guarantee that's going to happen. In fact, it's rather unlikely that it does. Anyways, if you guys like this kind of stuff, consider leaving a like and subscribe. And stay tuned, because when the live stream goes down, we'll be covering this again just to sort of make sure people know, hey, it's out there, it happened. Peace out.